Escort the payload.
Alright, let's get this started.
Enemy seen.
Alright, so I don't know like if where your sound settings are and like your setup, but like you should be able to hear this hog walking around near you, and that should be like a big red flag. Be very scared, especially when he shoots at you. I mean, you do turn when he does that, but he should have hook. Yeah, I don't think he's used it yet, so be really careful, like just like walking at him like this, because if you get hooked, like no one's gonna save you. Like your entire team is like not paying attention to this, right? So likewise, don't run around the corner to do this. Like just stand here and just keep shooting and corner picking, because that way, like if you get hooked, you're much more likely to break the hook just by like walking back right as he hooks, right? And again, like as a hog, you're probably not gonna miss him. So like you don't have to walk this hog to shoot at him. Where are you? There you are. Just like right here, like, you're just gonna keep walking at him. And I guess you canceled his hook or something asleep, or you missed it. I don't know what's going on here, but like he doesn't even try to hook you, but he could probably kill you with a hook. So just keep in mind, like just respect the hog, because hogs are scary. So second is you don't have to be walking forward here, because you're Ana, right? You have a scope, right? And they have no snipers, right? The only thing that can kill you at this point is like Zen spam or something, right? So if you play, like, what's the difference between playing here, like where you're trying to play, like walking forward, and like back here, like where the ash is? There's virtually no real difference, right? You just scope and you gotta shoot, right? Target priority wise, like none of these guys in front matter. This guy matters because A, he's further back, so he's less likely to get healed, and B, he's also the most exposed because he's standing on the high ground, like with no cover, versus like these people who have a Ryan shield and are like that you have teammates in front. And it's just kind of annoying. And thirdly, this guy looks like he's about to go in, so you just want to shoot him to make it more likely that when he commits, he dies, right? Or make him change his mind. So that's why you need to shoot this guy, and you also want to do it from further back so he doesn't combo you to death. All right, so this is obviously a quick play. I don't know if you're playing with anyone. Looks like you're playing with Stacks. But generally speaking, like if you see this, that you need to be really vocal about the fact there's a Doomfist on the top right. You don't really have any heroes that can go contest them except for maybe the Reaper. Where's your Reaper? Okay, Reaper teleported over here. But if you did this early enough, this is also a viable play. Just keep in mind now that there's a Doomfist here, right? So if you don't have anyone who can flush him out, you need to position for the next like 20 seconds, knowing that there's a Doomfist directly above you, right? So there's a couple ways you can do that. One, you can play really far off to the side and just like try to kill him, right? This is a little dangerous because you can get shot from this side, so I wouldn't recommend it. Generally speaking, the solution here is just to play directly underneath him. Like this area is generally your friend. Like this Ash actually has pretty good positioning. And the fact that it's like pretty safe generally. She could actually be playing more aggressive, but these are like the positions she's playing are very good for you. So if like you play behind these pillars, it's really hard to like shoot at you. You have a lot of cover. You have multiple angles that you can play at the same time, like multiple like corners that you can use to control the angle at the same time. And it's really hard for the Doomfist to kill you unless he comes like, I don't know, like, okay, there's actually no way there. So he has to come all the way back around and into here, and you should be able to hear him doing that. So you can play over here, and it's really safe. You just need to make sure you don't get sniped by the Zen. Yeah, so because you're playing out in the open, I just want to show you what the Doomfist sees. Doomfist wants to commit now. He comes out, and he looks, and he immediately sees you, right? So if you're playing here, now he has to make a rough guess on where you're at based on like the tracers he's seeing and stuff like that. But like you could be like really deep in here, and he would have no idea, right? So he could like drop down the slam and not hit you, and then you could sleep him when he's charging his punch, right? You could also be over here, right? And then just like there are ways to mix up your positioning here, and you're covered. But if he comes out and he immediately sees you, any Doomfist worth his salt is either going to go for you or the Mercy, right? And you don't want to be just in this equation at all. And the Mercy's a lot further, so it's probably going to be you. Yeah, so you put yourself in a situation where, I mean, this Doom is not very good, but where if this was a good Doomfist that went for you and tried to kill you, like you would have to hit the sleep to live, right? And you just never want to be in that situation because hitting the sleep is hard. Again, you're playing really aggressive here when you don't have to, right? What are you actually shooting here, right? You're shooting a Rhine shield. Are you gonna miss a Rhine shield? Right. So like, I get that you want to shoot the people behind him, but the Rhine is covering it, right? So if you're playing here, right? What's the difference? You're not gonna miss. You're not missing the Rhine shield either way, right? And even better, like if you're further away, you actually have license to scope now, and make sure you can, and maybe hit a shot that like just barely over the Rhine shield or to the side of the Rhine shield that like would be a lot harder to hit closer actually. Also keep in mind that you just saw Genji go past you, and peeling for the other support is your responsibility as a support, right? Other people can help, especially off tanks, but like primarily like the healers have to help each other first and foremost. It's a bit complicated because you're a main healer, but generally speaking, your priorities as healer are first your other support, then second your main tank, and then third everyone else. Obviously, this is flexible depending on like what's going on and who's like in trouble. For example, if like everyone's fine, or like your Ryan's taking some hits, but he's totally fine, but you're like your Genji's about to die, then obviously prioritize your Genji, right? Things like that. So there's triage or whatever. But generally speaking, like if your other support might be in trouble, turn to look at your other support. Whoops. Oh, you got him. That's an interesting time to drop shield. But again, just do it from back here. It's just way easier, way safer. I'd just like to point out, obviously, like it's way too early for Shatter to be played, but like generally speaking, I feel like most people who are in this position aren't thinking about that. So if this man had Shatter, and he shattered your Rhine, he would also shatter you, right? And you just never want that to be the case unless you don't have a choice, right? So on the other hand, if you're like back here, if he shatters, you're totally fine. You're far enough away, right? And now you're in a position where you can like help with your abilities and like damage or healing, depending on what's more important in the moment, to like help your team live through the shatter, right? Whereas if you're here and you're stunned, you now have zero contribution on who lives and dies in the shatter, right? So whenever possible, you want to have control over the game as Ana. So the easy way to do it is not be caught by things that are hitting your teammates, right?
Watching you back.
Yeah. So because you're here, because you're trying to play so aggressive, you open yourself up to getting flanked. In this case, it's a hog. In higher level games, it'll be a Widow, or an Ashe Mercy. Right? Like there's a million and one things that could kill you here, and that's why you just don't want to play next to your team, right? You want to play a little bit back and slightly off to the side, typically. There are obviously times when you have to play closer, but when you don't have to, don't play closer, right? You live anyways, so the hog's bad. But while you're distracted, your Rhine dies, right? And so, like, you just never want to have to, like, deal with all this. There's also Genji behind you. Whenever you hear Genji behind you, and it's not going for you, big red flag, because, again, like, it might be your other support, right? So just turn around, make sure that the Genji's addressed with. A lot of being better at Ana isn't necessarily about having great aim, or, like, great ultimate usage. A lot of it just comes down to like being responsive to threats and being able to handle a lot of things at the same time, right? So, for example, if you're in this situation and there's Genji behind you, you turn back, maybe put it go heal your Zarya, heal her like once, maybe twice, see that she bubbled, and know that your Zarya is now favored to win this fight versus the Genji, and then flicking around, looking to see if like your Reaper needs help. Maybe you heal him once, then turn back and maybe help kill the Genji, right? So the more things you can juggle as Ana at a time, the better, right? And so a lot of what the more things you can like handle in your mental stack, the better you'll be in Ana. Obviously, there's some element of mechanics stuff like that, and there's some element with like cooldown usage in terms of like using your abilities and stuff like that. Obviously, Ana's cooldowns are very very strong, but like juggling a lot of things at the same time is like a big part of it. And this is why positioning is so important, because the positioning, the better you position, the easier it is to handle a lot of things at the same time. Because if like say for example, just as an example, like say your entire team is like right here, right? Just like in this intersection, like your entire team is here, and you're in the smack dab in the middle of it. In order to process what's going on around you and heal, like handle multiple things at the same time, you just keep spinning around, right? It just like it's impossible, right? Whereas if you're back here, and your entire team is like your team's taking hits, you can like choose who to heal because you can see them all, right? It's just a lot easier, right? So yeah, being more responsive to multiple things is good. You will have to get used to turning around more, just in general, because like this is going on, but this is also going on, and so you need to be able to like collect information on both of them and like prioritize, right, on who gets help, right? And then yeah, and then positioning. We'll go over a few more fights, but it's gonna be mostly good stuff.
I understand.
So you healed this guy way too, like this Zarya way more than you needed to, because you have this impulse like Zarya's in trouble. I saw a critical. I'm gonna make sure this guy's full. But the Zarya bubbled. She also gets the mercy pocket after you start shooting. So you just need to give her one shot, and then you need to turn and try and kill the Genji, because like it doesn't matter here. Oh, what the heck? it didn't matter here, but like you want to kill the but your Zarya is fine, right? So you want to prioritize damage now, or healing whoever else might be in trouble, right? All right, so you know the Doomfists just went up the stairs, right? Knowing the Doomfist went up the stairs, what do you need to do? The answer is don't play on cart. There's two places you can go, right? One, again, just play underneath. He can't hit you if you're underneath him. It's really, really hard for Doomfist to commit like this. Second is to just run the heck away, right? Play as far away as you can while still being able to contribute, right? So if you play here, suddenly the Doomfist has to do a crazy like commitment to get to you, right? And again, also be really vocal that you saw this happening, because yeah, for example, your Reaper could just teleport up there and go fight him, right? But yeah, so you want to do one or two things. You basically need to pick a position. Like, it doesn't matter if you get it wrong, to be honest, right? Because the most important thing is that you made a decision, you committed to it, and then you can evaluate the decision afterward, right? So if it turns out you're wrong, that's great. You learned something, right? But if you don't make a decision, you can't learn anything, right? So the most important thing is if you see this Doomfist, make a decision, where am I going to play because of this Doomfist, right? Like, you're not even trying to look to see if he's, like, poking his nose out, right? Like, if he was poking his nose out and looking at you, you would have no idea, right? Like, the only thing that matters in this position, where you're, like, right here, like, again, because there's no fighting happening. No one's taking any damage, right? So, if that's happening, there's only a couple things you need to worry about. Like, someone coming out from spawn to shoot you, right? Like a Widow coming out from here, or from here. And this Doomfist that you just saw go high ground, right? So if that's the case, where should you be looking? At these doors and at the Doomfist. And you can do all of them at the same time if you're like walking this way, right? You can just start like looking back and forth, right? But that's what you need to emphasize, because that's how you die. And if you die, you put your team in a really bad spot. Okay, now you're looking, right? But like you want to do this much earlier, and you also don't want to be on the cart because this is how you die. It's not just the Doomfist. Like, at higher ELOs, there'll be a Widow pretty much always on this map, and the Widows won't miss their shot if you're standing still on cart.
Smoke 'em out of there.
Understood. Right on it.
Past a certain point, you also don't want to be in cart in general. So you can walk the cart while your team's pushing aggressively, but if you need to take position, you want to swap with your team, right? So let's say your team's holding aggressively here, and they're fighting, and then they start like backing up as the enemy team walks forward because they want to get to cart. Well, when that happens, you need to be backing off the cart. You don't want to be on the cart when the fight happens, because chances are you're going to die, right? We talked a lot about spacing, about positioning, and how being further is generally better. If you're here, you're straight up not going to die in this fight, right? Except like outside of like massive commitment from the enemy team. So like you can heal your team, you do everything from here, and just keep in mind of Widow sight lines, right? But if you're here, also pretty good. It takes a pretty big commitment, and like generally speaking, if they start running like this directly at you, your team can like do something about it. Like there are a lot of relatively safe locations on this map, but on the cart is not a safe location. Don't be here; it is not your friend. There's a very common swap that you see a lot. If you're not sure who should be in the cart when you want to get off the cart, which you should have tried to get off the cart like a little while ago, ask your off tank, because your off tank, generally speaking, is better suited to the cart than you. There are situations, obviously, where it can be someone else, it can be a main tank, whoever, but like generally speaking, you don't want to be in the cart. You want to be somewhere else.
Take your medicine.
Right, so
Securing the payload.
you don't die to the Doomfist because he's bad, but I just like to point out that for essentially nothing, like something he was going to do anyways, he made you burn your nade, right? And your nade, as we talked about, is like I don't know if we talked about it really, but I mentioned it. Is like is a really important cooldown, right? So for example, if you had this nade and you naded this hog, he just dies, right? He just dies. There's nothing else that he can do, right? But because you don't have nade, this hog is probably gonna live. And he's gonna live for a long time, and he's gonna like create some space and mess around with your team a bit.
Nap time.
This isn't a bad time to nano your Ryan. So when you sleep this this hog, I don't know if your Ryan has charge or not. He does, yeah. So whenever this happens, where you sleep this hog, and you don't have nade to like follow up or any in general, but just in general, like when you sleep their tank and your Ryan is close to them, you know there's gonna like the Ryan's coming in. There's gonna be like a lot of mess happening right here. Just nano your Ryan and let him go ham. Just let him swing. He's gonna like get a lot of value.
You're marked up. Get in there.
Yeah. So again, lots of problems from being on cart. I don't want to keep harping on it, but like this, you're getting shattered. You're in Ryan's swing range. You're 100% gonna die for this. It is not good. Living in Overwatch is really important. Alright, you guys cap anyways, but it was really messy, right? A situation where you guys had a pretty big advantage. Sorry, it appears we're struggling. Okay, I'll go over 1 or 2 more fights, but it's really the same concept.
Take your medicine. This will help.
Alright, you don't have to take this fight. You don't have to commit to it very hard, right? You just like corner peek, throw some shots, and then run away, because he's way more threatening to you than the other way around, and he has a healer that's sitting on him, right? So not only can you have to spend 3 shots to kill him, and he needs at most 2. He also has a healer that can like permanently extend how much damage you need to apply to him, right? So just not a good fight that you want to take. If you really want to take this fight, and you're in a relative coordinated environment, and your Zarya is with you, you can ask the Zarya to push him for you, and you just pocket your Zarya as she goes in, right? But everybody's looking at main right now, so really not your concern.
You won't regret it. Thank you, Angela.
From a mechanics perspective, though, if you want to take these duels, I don't really mind it. I'm just from a game winning perspective, if you're trying to win games, if you're trying to build good habits for later, don't take that fight.
Payload's inbound. Seconds. Leaving out.
My team still needs me.
We'll watch one more fight.
Group up at my position.
No.
Stop moving again.
No.
Here it comes.
Where's your Ryan? Why is he going this way? Okay, well, out of the case, I know this is a little much to ask, but like when you're sitting here sniping, you should expect something to be happening, right? Because your team wants to get somewhere, either to the point or to like enemy team create a fight, right? So if you're sitting here for like 2 seconds and you don't see Orion on the edge of your field of view, like walking towards like across this balcony or something, or towards the cart, then you should like unscope and take a look at like what's going on, right? So you turn to look, you see all your teammates, like you did look actually, like you unscoped, you looked, you saw no Ryan, right? Which means the Ryan is doing something weird, right? So he's going around, and this is obviously a little complicated. There's a lot of things that could happen here, but the net result is that he's going to show up here and he's going to try and make a play, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's definitely weird. But if you know that's going to happen, which you did because you collected information, you might not understand exactly what's going to happen, but you know what your Ryan, you know roughly that your Ryan is not here and he's going around for some reason. So if that's the case, then you should be trying to like connect with him as much as possible. So you should be like trying to come up here and dodge Hanzo arrows, don't get logged. And get to this position, because this position will let you help your Ryan on his play, right? And that's a really big difference versus like your Ryan just going in, because I can guarantee you he's going to go in, and if he doesn't kill both these people by himself, he's going to die, and he might kill both of them and die, right? So if you get here, it's a difference between like killing both, between dying and not dying, very often, right? And like if he doesn't die, he draws a lot of resources away, because a lot of people are going to see like, oh my god, Ryan in the back lane, come kill the Ryan, right? And the meanwhile, like your Reaper gets to do stuff on cart, right? But really prioritize like connecting with your Ryan and helping him out, right? Like you're just playing this long angle. This is really dangerous. You never want to get into a long scoping duel with the Hanzo. Like if you take shots against them, you want them to be mostly quick scopes, or like one scope shot and then you unscope and move, right? So you don't get logged. Almost died. Okay, what's going on with your Ryan? Okay, so your Ryan got scouted, and he's being. Alright, he's hanging out. Cool. Alright. Moving on. Again, if you're not sure where to play with the Hanzo directly above you, directly underneath is generally not very bad. In order to commit, he has to come all the way to the edge. He might mess up and fall off. And in either case, you get to shoot him from underneath, because there's only one place he can be. It's a super easy shot, right? Yeah, so directly underneath, typically pretty safe. You probably should try to back earlier. I know your Reaper's in trouble, but like you can't save him, right? You gotta back up. Either you gotta heal him and save him, right, as he comes around the corner, or like you can't save him. But like if you can't save him, like running around the corner is not gonna help change anything either way, because they're gonna be chasing him, and then you die together, right? So even if you can't save him by running around the corner, all you're gonna add is like your own death to it, right? So if you can't save him, run away, right? Or even if you can't save him, you should be running away. If you can't save him while running away, tough luck for him, right? But if you can't save him, even better, right? Just make sure that you're prioritizing your own life and your own spacing, because that's what's important here. Alright, so I think that's about it for this VOD. Yeah, just really emphasize spacing and distance. There are times when you have to play closer. You'll experience them pretty quickly. It's usually dive-based scenarios where you'll be like, wow, they all jumped on me and I died because I was too far from my team. And then you can start figuring out like when to play closer and stuff like that. But initially, I think your default reaction is to play way too close. So play further. Don't be on card. Card is not your friend. Yeah, just play spacing. Play your threats. Underneath is a pretty good spot to be away from enemy DPS. If you don't have heroes that can easily contest high ground like a monkey or a diva. Alternatively, play really, really far away from them. If you know where a threat is, play away from it. Like, have some kind of plan to not die to it, right? If you don't know where a threat is and it gets you, unfortunate. That's when we talk about scouting and stuff like that. But there's a lot of cases where you knew where a threat was and you didn't play around it, right? Yeah. So those are the important things. If you have any questions about anything I said, feel free to ask. And yeah.